Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Fixing It Up with Sandra. In case you're new here, I'm Sandra, and today we are going to take a little detour away from crafting and creating, and we're going to talk about something a little bit more serious. We are going to talk about my cancer journey. I have had so many people ask me so many questions, people here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, people in my life, and I figure why not just share it on here. You know, this is the one place that I can just say my story one time, because it is hard to talk about it over and over again, and just, you know, put it out into the universe. And another reason why I'm doing this is because through my journey, I came across people came out to me and, you know, either told me their cancer journey that they had been through. I met people that were going through their journey at the same time as I was, and then people that were about to start their journey. I am also watching the cat right here. so it's been quite a ride, and so much of it I haven't really shared with a lot of people, or if I didn't share it at all. And so I just thought I would start here, you know, because a lot of you guys have been with me for a long time, and you guys know that he's over there meowing. He's gonna be the star of the show. And so you guys have been with me for a long time, and so you guys know that you guys kind of like had watched me go through this. And then for those that are new here that have no idea that any of this happened, you know, I just want to share with you this, and then maybe give somebody hope, inspire somebody. Maybe, you know, you'll hear the story and get yourself checked. But, you know I find inspiration in people's stories all the time. So that's just what I'm putting it out there into the universe for. And also, let me just say, before I even start talking about anything that I went through, I am not a doctor. I am not a professional. I do not take my word as gold. This is simply my experience and the things that I went through. Please, please, please always do your own research, talk to your own doctors, do what's best for you. And yeah, just make sure that you do you. It's great to have some information, but again, it's all about what works best for you. So let's see where I start. You know, so I had been, and you know, and again, there may be TMI on here, and if you don't know what that is, it's a little too much information, because I am going to be very honest about this. I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to tell details that people might kind of cringe, and I will warn you before I get to that part. So again, I'm going to be very honest, but let's see where I can start. So I would say probably 2 years back, and yes, that far back before I even discovered that I had cancer, I had started bleeding. And to let you guys know, I had cervical cancer, and I say had because I am very, very optimistic. I have not been declared cancer free or any of that stuff. So fingers crossed, prayers, please. But before I even realized I had cervical cancer about 2 years ago, I had started bleeding, and not my normal period. And so because it wasn't something that seemed off, you know, I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm in my 40s, I'm 43, I'll be 44 this year. I'm like, you know, maybe this is what happens when menopause is starting, you know, and a lot of things were happening in the world. You know, the world was shutting down. I had lost my job. So many things were happening that the fact that I was having more bleeding in between things was probably the last thing, and not, I say probably, was like the last thing that I needed to deal with. I'm like, yeah, it's not painful, little inconvenient, but nothing to worry about. And so I didn't worry. And as a waitress too, you know, you always have aches and pains. And I've been in the restaurant industry for 15 years plus, or I'm gonna say service industry, because I've also worked as I worked in bed and breakfasts, you know, doing all the cleaning and everything. And so like, your body just is used to moving fast, you're used to the aches and pains. So you don't really become alarmed when you have like a minor ache. You're like, oh, that's just from working too hard. So, you know, the years go on, and yes, the bleeding becomes more and more. And, you know, again, living where I live, I live in California, we have not the best health care. And so I didn't have health insurance, you know. I make too much to have this one insurance, and then I don't make enough to have this one. So again, not having health insurance, all kinds of things happening in your life. And then you get the fear like, oh my gosh, you know, what happens if they find something? And as stupid as that sounds, those were a lot of the things that I was thinking, you know. And I'm like, okay, maybe this will go away on its own, you know. And again, so naive, so silly to think, but that was my thought process. And then also, I don't have time to be sick. I have too many things going on. I don't have time to be sick. So, you know, 2 years pass, and the bleeding becomes heavier and heavier, and it gets to the point where like it does become worrisome. And, you know, I'm thinking, okay, I will get checked next week, and next week comes and goes, and I will get checked next week. And it gets to the point where your body is like, if we don't do something now, you're gonna be very, very sorry. There's gonna be a point where there's no fixing it. So let's see. I finally decided to get checked, and here's the little TMI, you know, earmuffs if you don't want to hear. Not only was the bleeding become heavier and heavier, I was starting to clot. Now, I have my tubes tied, and I've had my tubes tied since I was like, I think 23, 24. I have to think of the date. I also have what's called chemo brain, and I don't like a lot of things is hard to remember, and I lose my train of thought really quick, and a lot of words get jumbled up in my head. So I'll be talking, and then all of a sudden I'm just like, I come to a stop, and I know what I want to say, but it's hard to get it out. So forgive me if that happens during these videos. So like I started clotting, and it was getting bad, like, and I mean large clots. And so I was like, you know what? But I had been clotting for about 6 months. And again, I know some people are going to be like, oh my God, I would never have waited. I would never have, you know, waited 2 years. And again, 2 years is a very long time, and the bleeding would be sporadic. Sometimes it would be a lot, and then sometimes it would be none, and then sometimes it would be some. And again, like looking back, yes, I would have done so many things different. And this is why I'm sharing my story, because, you know, we always think that we're going through something alone, especially when it's bad. We're like, nobody else has gone through something like this. Nobody else will understand. Nobody else has done the thing that I would have done. Anybody else would have done XYZ because they would have known better. They would have done better. But it's so, you know, when I did share a little bit of my story, again, I found that there are multiple women that waited just like me, that had the same symptoms just like me. Now, I don't know their outcome, but I know that they were experiencing these things for a while. And again, mothers, too busy, can't do it, gotta take care of the kids. We always put ourselves on the back burner. And again, this is why I'm sharing this story. And again, I'm pretty sure people are gonna be watching this going, I would have. Yes, 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 yes. I totally agree. And if anybody else would come to me with their story like this, I would be saying the same thing. But now that I've been through it, I'm more educated. When these women were telling me these things, and I'm like, don't wait like I did. Don't wait like I did. So anyway, so I made a doctor's appointment, and this was last year. I think I made the appointment at the end of May, and they didn't have an availability until June 15th. I will never forget that date, June 15th. So I had to wait a long time, and by now the bleeding is like it's increasing to where it's almost weekly, and the bleeding length would be multiple days on end. And ladies, we know the different types of bleeding. We know when we're having our period, and we know when something else is not right. And the not right kind of bleeding was happening more and more frequently, and I was getting scared, but I didn't tell anybody, and I just kept this all to myself. I would tell my boyfriend, oh yeah, I'm bleeding again, and he doesn't know. He's just like, oh, okay. He was just like, he knew something. He knew that wasn't right, but he wasn't like, he didn't ask questions, and I didn't divulge any information. So, June 15th finally rolls around, and I made an appointment at the gynecologist's office, and I get there. I'm incredibly nervous. I have no idea what to expect, and I'm just terrified that they're going to tell me. And to be honest, cancer was probably on my list, like the very bottom of the list. I was like, I don't know I don't know. I honestly didn't know. I was just like, it could have been anything. And so I get there, I'm super nervous, trying not to cry, and I go into the doctor, and this woman was just a pure angel. She was an older woman. She hugged me a lot because I was crying, and I don't even know what's happening. I just know that there's something wrong and I need help, and I'm terrified. And these appointments are not always the easiest to do when you're perfectly healthy and normal and all of that stuff. Lady, we know how this is. But I went to a place that was very, very compassionate. The lady was very compassionate, very caring. And so she was like, okay, we're gonna do this. And so when she started the exam, and she had looked inside of me, she was like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm looking at. And I was like, oh my God. Then of course I'm hysterical because I'm like, oh my God, like something really bad is happening. And she was like, I want the other doctor who's been doing this for 20 plus years to take a look at you. And I'm like, okay, we'll do that another time. Like my anxiety is now through the roof because I like her saying like, I'm not sure what I'm seeing. And she had been in the field for quite some time. But now I'm like, okay, she really scared me. She really did, but she hugged me and everything. Like, she's like, I'm so sorry. I ended the exam right then and there. And I go, I can't have another doctor come in and do all this. Like, it was just too much. It was very overwhelming. And I was by myself, which was mistake number one, because I had traveled about 45 minutes to this doctor's appointment. And so I'm like, we have to end now because my anxiety is through the roof. Even though you want to bring somebody in that will eventually tell me what is going on, we can't do this. So I leave, I'm in the car, I'm hysterically crying. I call my friend and I talk to her until I hit the mountains where the service was out. And because of the exam, I'm like now bleeding and all of the things, but they make another appointment for me like the next week or something like that. And I'm like, I don't know, like I'm home. I tell my boyfriend, oh, it was okay. They rescheduled because I need to see another doctor. Very just want to brush it off, want to sweep it under the rug. And I kind of told my friend, like, the exam didn't go so well. I need to come back. Now I'm scared. But I didn't tell her in detail that the doctor was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I did not tell her that. I just was like, I'm just super worried. And so I am on pins and needles until the next appointment. Like, it's almost like you have that knot in your stomach. And this is in July. And I'm just like, oh my God. Now, because of my bleeding, I started to become very, very fatigued. Like, even though I was still doing a lot of things, like I still had my store, it was summer, I was still doing a lot of stuff, I was very fatigued and I fought through so much of it. And I don't have the greatest diet. Like I do try to eat healthy, but I have this sweet tooth that just won't quit. So like, I definitely will eat a lot of healthy stuff, but then I will also eat a lot of cakes and pastries and candies and all that other stuff that is not good for me. And so I was like fighting this battle, and I didn't put all of it together. I didn't realize that the bleeding was causing me to be fatigued. I mean, there were times that I would be at the shop and like during this, when nobody was in there, I was like falling asleep. I just thought I'm overdoing things, and people would tell me, oh my gosh, you need to slow down, because you're overdoing things. But here's like how me being busy is like somebody working out every single day for 2 hours, and it's like their normal thing, like, and they work out when they're pregnant, all of the things. Me staying busy is just how I've been forever. And I know it's not what everybody else, it's not what a lot of people do in a day, but it's just me. It's just, I like to stay busy. It's just my thing. I don't go to the gym, but this is what I do. This is my exercise, and I am very high energy. So staying busy all day long and creating, that's just me, it's just my life, and I love it. And I can't sit down and just, watch TV or, just not do anything. Like if there's daylight and I have energy, let's do it. Or even nighttime. So anyways, so I was feeling very fatigued quite often, and I just couldn't explain it. Looking back, I now know what was going on. So anyways, so the next time, the next doctor's appointment comes up, again, I go by myself. Big mistake. So I see the doctor who's been there for 20 some odd years. We do the exam. We actually have another lady in the room because I'm like, I need to hold your hand. And she's like, we're gonna do some biopsies and whatnot, based off of what the other doctor had said. So let's do this. And so we start the exam, and just by looking into my cervix, into my vagina, all of that, she was like, okay, I'm gonna do some biopsies. The biopsies were not painful. They did clip 3 different areas of my cervix, and then because of the bleeding, there is this medicine, and I don't know the name of the medicine. It is like an orange liquid medicine that it can rub inside of your cervix, and that will stop the bleeding. And then, so she does that, puts the stuff in there to stop the bleeding, and that was it. I was more hysterical, like crying and all of I cried through the whole exam because, again, I was scared. I didn't know what was happening, all of the things. So I get dressed, she comes back in, and then she goes, I have been doing this for 20 plus years. And she said, I want to say that you have cancer. And because I was like, is it cancer? Because now when, I had started, that cancer started to creep up in my mind, and she goes, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. She's like, but from what I'm seeing and what she saw, so your cervix is supposed to be completely smooth. And what happened with me, I'm not gonna say what happens for anybody, but what happened with me, my cervix became very like bumpy, kind of like just bumpy, just very bumpy and very soft, to where like if you just did an exam or anything like that, I would immediately start bleeding. If I had sex, I would start bleeding afterwards. Any kind of disturbance of the tissue inside my vagina and cervix would immediately cause bleeding. And so she goes, what I want you to do is go home and immediately apply for health insurance, Medi-Cal, whatever, and get on it, because I believe you're going to need it. And so she goes, but we're going to send this off, and I'll have the results in a couple of days, and I will let you know. But I have a sad feeling that you have cervical cancer. And so again, I'm 45 minutes away, and I leave the building hysterically crying. I call my boyfriend first, and he's at work, and he is a very very somber, I don't know how to explain, calm person. So he's like, oh, and he's not a man of a lot of words. So he's like, oh, okay. He's like, I'm so sorry, trying to console me. And I'm like, okay. Then I was like, oh, I'll be home soon. And then I call my girlfriend, and I'm like, and she's like, oh my God, and she was just, cause then with your girlfriends, I felt like I could just say more, and she's, trying to comfort me all the way home. And I get to the house, and she meets me here, because I'm like, I am losing my ever-loving mind. The doctor told me I had cancer. I've got to wait for these test results. Oh my God. I don't know what to do right now. So again, I don't tell many people. I just kind of keep it between this very small handful of people. Continue to work, don't say anything. And then I get the phone call a few days later, and it turns out that I have cervical cancer. And so they take biopsies in different parts of the cervix, because one side of the cervix may or may not have cancer, maybe it's this side. And so it's pre-cancer right here, but then it's cancerous back here kind of deal. And honest to God, when she was explaining to all of this to me on the phone, it's kind of like that, like you see in the movies, the phone's to your ear, and you just kind of drop the phone, and you're just like, I don't even know what to say. So it was kind of like that kind of a moment. And I do have to say, this place that I went to, it's called Care for Her. It was incredible. The first doctor, because she saw how distraught I was, she called me during the week that I was waiting for my results, just to check on me. And she was like, I can't stop thinking about you, all the things. And to have a doctor call you and just think about you, I bawled. I was like, oh my God. And I recommend them to everybody, because to all my ladies, because they were just so compassionate in such a scary time. And you don't always see that. And so I have to start my journey off with such love, compassion, all of the wonderful things. As terrified as I was, it encouraged me to keep going and to keep fighting and to not be scared. Let's just deal with what we need to deal with and go on. And so, those doctors were amazing. And so, so now, you know, I have cancer. Now she's going to refer me to a doctor at, in San Francisco at UCSF. She was like, you need to now see an oncologist. And just that word oncologist, I was just like, oh my God, is this my life? Like, you know, like you almost, like for me, I almost just like came out of body, and I was just like, what in the world is happening to me? Is this my life? I have cancer, and you know, like now I'm just getting choked up just thinking about it, you know, but I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Because you know, we don't know about things until it happens to us a lot of times. And so like the only thing I knew about cancer is that it was a death sentence. Like people get cancer and they die. You know, you see the stuff on TV. I hadn't really known anybody with cancer except for one person. And they had skin cancer, and it was something that was cut off, and then, you know, that was it. Like there was no like big like radiation or chemotherapy or anything like that. And this was when I was a kid, so I probably there was, but like it was very simple when this person had skin cancer. So so now we're gonna head off to San Francisco and try to get that doctor's appointment because I had cancer, and that's that is a hard pill to swallow. And yeah, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't say anything because I still needed to know like how advanced the cancer was. She really didn't that, because again, they are just OBGYNs. She's like, I'm not a cancer doctor, so that's why she was referring me to them. And so now it was time to really figure out what was going on. So yeah, it was scary, but